outward, you have to practice. They don't get there. You don't get to, like the musician, he was down in Times Square and he asked the policeman, how do I get to, he had his little violin case, he said, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? And he said, practice, practice, practice. Like, that's how you get there. So that's what he's saying. You want to get to God, you have to do the practice. Because just like people are amazed at people that do a lot of practice in dunya things, ovations, that's praise. That's what they do, they give him ovations. Allah is amazed at His servant when he draws near to Him through practice. Wallahi, there's hadiths that say that Allah is ajiba. Ajiba rabbuka. Allah was amazed at what you did last night. Those people the two Ansaris that pretended to eat while their guest was eating. They turned out the lights, pretended to eat while their guest was eating. The next day they saw the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, Allah was amazed at what you did. Because that's practice. And so you get God's ovation. You get the thana of God. He's the one who praises you. And then on Yawm al-Qiyamah, He elevates you in front of His mala, where you get the reward. Just like they have Oscars in dunya for all these worldly things that people do. Allah has these things. This is all metaphor for what's to come. But it's the exact opposite in the akhirah. The high people in dunya are low in the akhirah. And the low people in dunya are high in the other world. Because they were considered nothing in this world. Some saint somewhere, like sitting in his cell, purifying his heart, praying and getting near to his Lord at night. People don't consider them. What a waste of time. Why wasn't he out doing something useful? Now, another thing that I find really fascinating is, Imam al-Ghazali, who knows Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah, a lot of you studied that, huh? Listen to this, because Maslow, this was considered this great discovery and ridiculous. Right? Like Mark Twain said, the ancients stole all their best ideas from us. Know with absolute certainty that the ulama al-rasikhin, those firmly rooted in knowledge, they understood these things by this internal state. It's not witnessing with the eyes, it's witnessing with the inner eye. And he said, as-sa'ada wara ilm al-mukashafa. Joy comes from this deep inner knowledge of God. وَعِلْمَ الْمُكَاشَفَةِ وَرَاء عِلْمَ الْمُعَامَلَةِ. And this mukashafa, these unveilings that happen inside in your inner state, they come from practice. And this practice is the suluk of tariq al-akhirah. It's the practice on the path towards the next life, وَقَطَعُ الْعَقَبَاتِ, and overcoming the obstacles. وَسُلُوك طَرِيق مَحْوَ الصِّفَاتِ الْمَذْمُومَةِ وَرَاء عِلْمَ الصِّفَاتِ. And taking the path of removing the negative qualities of your nature is behind the knowledge of these attributes. So you have to know the knowledge to get rid of those negative attributes. وَعِلْمْ طَرِيقَ الْمُعَالَجَةِ وَكَيْفِيَّةَ السُّلُوكِ وَذَلِكَ وَرَاء عِلْمْ سَلَامَةَ الْبَدَنِ وَمُسَاعَدَةَ أَسْبَابِ الصَّحَّةِ. And this knowledge that you need to know in order to traverse this path, behind that is a sound body. You have to be in good health. Your needs, your basic needs have to be taken care of. So he goes from what Maslow called self-realization, he would call mukashafa, which is the highest in this hierarchy of needs. Our need to really fulfill our true purpose, to have human flourishment. And this is based on good health. وَسَلَامَةَ الْبَدَنِ بِالِاجْتِمَاعِ وَالتَّظَاهُرِ وَالتَّعَاوُنِ الَّذِي يُتَوَصَّلُ بِهِ إِلَى الْمَلْبَسِ وَالْمَطْعَمِ وَالْمَسْكَنِ. And this is based on having food and drink and security. Food, drink, and a residence. وَهُوَ مَنُوطٌ بِالسُّلْطَانِ وَقَانُونِهِ فِي ضَبْطِ النَّاسِ. And this is based on having security. You have to have security. I mean, look, he's giving you it's even more sophisticated than this modern idea. So he's saying this is based, and this is why when you see all this anarchy in the Muslim world, people cannot flourish spiritually. You can't flourish when it's anarchy outside. In a city like Kunya, you can flourish spiritually if you want to. But in a place where you've got somebody trying to bulldoze your house down, like in Palestine or in Iraq, where you have people chasing people out because they don't agree with them or chopping off heads and things, how can people spiritually come to any self-realization? They can't. It's a disaster. And that's why فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ الَّذِي يَطْعَمُهُم مِّن جُوعٍ وَآمَنَهُم مِّنْ خَوْفٍ. Worship this Lord, the one who gave you security and nourishment. So he took care of your basic needs. Once that's done, then you have to do the ibadah. If that's not done, how can you do the ibadah? How can you do it with the intent and the purpose and the way that it was meant to be done? And then he said, and if you say, again, he's always preempting his critics, if you say, how dare you make fiqh and medicine equal to the provision and the beast on the Hajj? He said, السعي إلى الله لينال قربه هو القلب دون البدن. That the one going to God to get the nearness to God is the heart, not the body. وَلَسْتُ أَعْنِي بِالْقَلْبِ اللَّحْمَ الْمَحْسُوسِ. And I don't mean by the heart this physical lump of flesh. بَلْ هُوَ سِرٌ مِنْ أَسْرَارِ اللَّهِ. This is a secret among the secrets of God. لَا يُدْرِكُ الْحِسْ. The sensorium can never understand it. لطيفة من لطائفه تارة يعبر عنه بالروح وتارة بالنفس المطمئنة. Sometimes it's a subtle thing from God's subtleties. Sometimes we call it the ruh, the spirit. Sometimes we call it the nafs, the soul, al-mutma'inna, at peace. وَالشَّرْعُ يُعَبُّرُ عَنْهُ بِالْقَلْبِ. And the Sharia talks about it as the heart, because it is the مطية الأولى لذلك السر. This is the vehicle to that secret. بِوَاسِطَتِهِ صَارَ جَمِيعَ الْبَدَنِ مَطِيَّةً وَآلَةً لِتِلْكَ اللَّطِيفَةِ. And by its means, the entire body becomes the vehicle and the tool by which we get to this subtle quality, the reality. كشف الغطاء عن ذلك السر من علم المكاشفة. So this is how you get to this. And he says, يَسَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. They ask you about the ruh. Say the ruh is from the amr of my Lord. Now listen to what he says. وَكُلُّ الْمَخْلُوقَاتِ مَنْسُوبَةٌ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَلَكِنَّ نِسْبَتُهُ أَشْرَفُ مِنْ نِسْبَةِ سَائِرِ عَطَاءِ الْبَدَنِ فَلِلَّهِ الْخَلْقُ وَالْأَمْرُ جَمِيعًا وَالْأَمْرُ أَعْلَى مِنَ الْخَلْقِ وهذه الجوهرة النفيسة الحاملة لأمانة الله تعالى المتقدمة بهذه الرتبة على السماوات والأراضين والجبال إذ أبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها هي من عالم الأمر ولا تفهم من هذا تعريضا بقدمه فالقائل بقدم الأرواح مغرور جاهل لا يدري ما يقول فلنقبض عنان البيان عن هذا الفن فهو وراء ما نحن بصدده. It's a beautiful statement. He says all of the creation is attributed to Allah, but its relationship in terms of its honor and distinction is the most dignified and distinct of all of the aspects of the human, the body. فَلِلَّهِ الْخَلْقُ وَالْأَمْرُ جَمِيعًا. Allah has creation and the amr, both of them. But the amr is higher than the creation. So when Allah says the ruh is from the amr of God, what He's saying is this is the highest thing that I have made from my makhluqat. And then He said it is a subtle essence that carries the amana of God, this sacred trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's over the heavens and the earth and the mountains. All who refused to carry it, they were overwhelmed by it and feared it. And for that reason, it's from alam al-amr. It's from the world of His affair. And then He says, but do not understand from this that I am in any way insinuating that the ruh is eternal, pre-eternal. In other words, it has qidam. We know it has azal. This is what's called eternal in Western theology. Something that has a beginning but no end. So the soul has a beginning but no end. So he's saying the soul is not like God. God had no beginning, God has no end. Huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru. First without beginning, al-awwalu bila ibtida, wal-akhiru bila intiha. He's the first without beginning and the last without end. The ruh has a beginning, which is that it was created by Allah, by amar, kun fayakun. And then he says, so we'll stop here. فَلْنَقْبِضْ. We're going to take hold of the reins. He said, I'm pulling back here. عِنَان الْبَيَانِ. I'm pulling back on the reins of expression because this is not the point of this book. Like, I'm not going to delve into these things here. وَالْمَقْصُودَ أَنَّ هَذِهِ اللَّطِيفَ هِيَ السَّعْيَ إِلَى قُرْبِ الرَّبِّ. The point of this subtle quality of the soul is that it goes towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَكُلُّ عِلْمٍ مَقْصَدُهُ مَصْلَحَةُ الْبَدَنِ. Every knowledge, the benefit of which is bodily, it is from the benefits of this vehicle to God. And you should know, وَلَا يَخْفَى أَنَّ الطِّبَّ كَذَلِكَ. Medicine is from that. قد يحتاج إليه في حفظ الصحة على البدن, because we need medicine sometimes to protect the health of the body. And لو كان الإنسان وحده لا احتاج إليه والفقه يفارقه في أنه لو كان الإنسان وحده ربما كان يستغني عنه ولكنه خلق على وجه لا يمكن أن يعيش وحده. If a human being was alone in creation, maybe he wouldn't need these things like fiqh, because fiqh is really about how to be with other people and how to transact, and maybe he wouldn't. But he said he didn't. Allah created us as a collective being. We're a societal being, and so for this reason, we have to understand that these things are to help us. And then he says something very interesting. He said that no matter how much people become confused, no matter how much their passions overwhelm them, no matter how much the asbab al-shahawat wa tanaza'u wa taqatilu, no matter how much they differ, how much they fight, even when they're on the verge of destruction, and sometimes leading to destruction, he said, وَكَمَا يَحْسُرُ هَلَاكُهُمْ بِسَبَبِ تَضَادِ الْأَخْلَاطِ مِنْ دَاخِلِ. Sometimes the body is destroyed because of internal problems. It's medicine that helps balance the body. And just like that, it's politics that helps balance the society. فعلم طريق اعتدال الأخلاق طب وعلم طريق اعتدال أحوال الناس في المعاملات والأفعال فقه. So the knowledge that keeps the body balanced, we call it medicine. The knowledge that keeps the society balanced, we call it fiqh, or jurisprudence, or law. وَكُلُّ ذَلِكَ يَحْفَظُ الْبَدَنَ الَّذِي هُوَ مَطِيَّ. And the point of all of this is to protect the body so it can take its journey to God. Health in its body and health in its social body. Because both of these will help the person on their journey to God. You can be healthy in your body, but if your society's insane, you're not going to be able to be on your journey. It's too crazy. So you're depressed, you're looking outside, you look out the door. How can you sit and be present with your Lord when you've got somebody shooting rockets at you? Or F-16s flying over or dropping bombs on you? You can't. It's not possible. And that's why these sciences are so important. We need rightly guided leaders. We need enlightened politicians. Let's see. فالمتجرد لعلم الفقه والطب إذا لم يجاهد نفسه لم يصلح قلبه. But if all you're concerned about is law and medicine and you don't fight yourself, the heart will never, لم يصلح قلبه. He'll never be able to fix his heart. It's like the one who he wants to buy the camel and the alaf of the camel, the fodder, وشراء الراوية and وخرزها, and buy the water carrier and stitch it. إذا لم يسلك بادية الحج والمستغرق عمره في دقائق الكلمات If he doesn't ever set out on the journey, and he spends his life, wasting his life in these subtle words or reading all of these books about fiqh, spending his life reading about the journey, he said it's the same. It's a person who never takes the journey has wasted his life. فتأمل هذا أولا. So think about this. وَاقْبِلَ النَّصِيحَ مَجَّانًا. Take my advice for free. He said, I'm giving you free advice. مِمَّنْ قَامَ عَلَيْهِ ذَلِكَ غَارِبًا. From somebody who did all this stuff that I'm talking about. Like he's an expert at this. وَلَمْ يَصِلْ إِلَيْهِ إِلَّا بَعْدَ جَهْدٍ جَهِيدٍ. And I only got to I only arrived after great struggle. So he's saying, look, I made the journey and I wrote the map for you. Here's the map. I took the journey to prove to you that it could be done. So here it is. And here's the map. I'm giving it all to you. Majanan. Not asking any money. Here it is. So take it or leave it. Now, this is the toughest part for me. Bayan wada'if al-murshad al-mu'allim. So now he's going to talk about teachers. Right? So now you all know you're not students, so you can now find out I'm not a teacher. اعلم أن للإنسان في علمه أربعة أحوال. There's basically 4 states in terms of knowledge. كما له اقتناء الأموال. Just like you earn money, إذ لصاحب المال حال استفادة فيكون مكتسبا. You're either earning money, so you're مكتسب, right? or حال اتخاذ لما اكتسبه فيكون به غنيا عن السؤال, or you're hoarding your money, keeping it in the bank, and this means that you're ghani, so you don't need to ask people for things because you've got what you need. وحال إنفاق على نفسه فيكون به منتفعا, or you're spending it on yourself and therefore you're benefiting from your money. وحال بذل لغيره فيكون سخيا متفضلا وهو أشرف أحواله, or you are expending it on others and showing generosity and bounty and virtue through that, and this is the best of the 4. So he said, just like that, knowledge is the same. It's like money. So you have the talab wa iktisab. Just like you go out and search for money, do things to get money, he said same thing. You go out to search for knowledge, you acquire the knowledge. And then حال تحصيل يغني عن السؤال. You get to a point where you don't need to ask people anymore because you know. If you know how to pray, you don't have to ask somebody, how many arkan of the prayer? What do I do when I do this? I think I made a mistake on the sunnah. Do I have to do sahu or not? If you learned your fiqh, أغنيت نفسك عن السؤال, that you don't need to ask people, right? So just like a rich man doesn't need to go out and ask people for money, a person who's learned doesn't need to go out. So then he says that وحال تحصيل يغني عن السؤال وحال استبصار وهو تفكر في المحصل والتمتع به. And then also, once you have knowledge, you can actually reflect, and that knowledge begins to benefit you personally. So it has an effect on you. You look at things differently. You understand things differently. And then also you start to teach it. Tabsir. And that's the best of these. فَمَنْ عَلِمَ وَعَمِلَ وَعَلَّمَ فَهُوَ الَّذِي يُدْعَى عَظِيمًا فِي مَلَكُوتِ السَّمَاءِ. So the one who learns, who acts according to his knowledge, and who teaches that knowledge, he is called great in the heavens. He's called great in the Malakut as-Sama. فَإِنُّهُ كَالشَّمْسِ. He's like a sun. تُضِيءُ لِغَيْرِهَا وَهِيَ مُضِيئَةٌ فِي نَفْسِهَا. It gives light to others, but it itself is illuminated. وَكَالْمِسْكِ الَّذِي يُطَيِّبُ غَيْرُهُ وَطَيِّبٌ. Like musk, that it's pure in itself, it has a beautiful scent, and it gives beautiful scent to others. And then he says, and the one who teaches but doesn't act, he's like a notebook. Benefits others, but it's of no benefit to himself. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they're like the one كَمَثَلَ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا, like a donkey that carries the books of knowledge on its back but doesn't benefit from it. بِئْسَ مِثَلٌ. And then he said, وَكَالْمِسَنْ, like the whetstone. The misan is the mishhad, like you make sharpen the knife with it. Like a misan, الَّذِي يَشْحَدُ غَيْرُهُ وَلَا يَقْطَعُ. So it sharpens something, but it doesn't cut itself. The whetstone is dull. So that's a scholar that doesn't act. He's like a whetstone. وَالْإِبْرَةَ الَّتِي تَكْسُ غَيْرَهَا وَهِيَ عَارِيَةٌ. Or like the ibra that stitches something else, but itself is naked. وَذُبَالَةَ الْمِصْبَاحِ تُضِيءُ لِغَيْرِهَا وَهِيَ تَحْتَرِقُ. Or like the wick of a lamp, the old-fashioned lamps, that it lights for others, but it itself burns itself up. ومهما اشتغل بالتعليم فقد تقلد أمرا عظيما وخطرا جسيما فليحفظ آدابه ووظائفه. So whoever is preoccupied with teaching, let him know that he has taken upon something immense and very dangerous, of momentous danger. So let him guard its comportments, its adab, its courtesies, and also its occupation. The first occupation, الوظيفة الأولى الشفقة على المتعلمين وأن يجريهم مجرى بنيه. The first one is that he's compassionate with the students and he should consider them like his children. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا أَنَا لَكُمْ مِثْلَ الْوَالِدِ لِوَلِدِهِ. I am like a father to his child. فَإِنَّ قَصْدُهُ إِذْ إِنْقَاذَهُم مِّن نَارِ الْآخِرَةِ. Because his intention is to save you from the fire of the next life, just as the father here, or the parent here, the mother, will attempt to save you from the fire of the dunya. So the mother, I was with one of the mothers tonight, and the child got right next to the curb, and she grabbed the child, pulled it back. Why? Because the instinct is to protect the child. Even though the child wasn't in danger, there's still the instinct is maybe they'll get into danger. This is the way the prophets are with humans. They see them literally about to enter a fire, and they're trying to grab them and pull them back with their wa'd, with their irshad. And the same way for the teachers that know, if they really have that knowledge and they know what this thing means and what this is about and what human beings are in. They want to save people, they want to help, they want to chop off their heads, they want to save their heads. They want to help them. فَإِنَّ عُلَمَاءَ وَأَبْنَاءَ الْآخِرَةِ مُسَافِرُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ. The scholars and the children of the next world, they are traveling to God. سَارِكُونَ إِلَيْهِ الطَّرِيقُ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Their path is from the dunya to the akhirah. سِنُوهَا وَشُهُورُهَا مَنَازِلُ الطَّرِيقِ. The years, the months, the days, the months, the years, so the minutes, the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, and the years, these are the journey. This is the journey. These are the steps. Every breath is a step towards the akhirah. And so you have to have compassion for people. One of the most interesting things, because I do a lot of traveling, and what I've noticed over the years of traveling, people are incredibly well behaved when they travel. It's actually quite rare. When you're at airports, people really are on their best behavior. It's very interesting. Maybe in some Muslim countries, a little different, but anyway, where I am, I know Muslims get a little impatient. Things don't work. The buses are horrible in the Muslim world. Like you have to fight to get on a bus in a lot of places. But generally, people are really. Muslims are actually quite good on Hajj. If you look on Hajj, because they remember it's a spiritual journey, and you can remind them. Sallu ala nabi. Udkur Allah, people say that and then they kind of come back. But generally when people are on a journey, they're actually well behaved at airports. And if somebody gets rude and upset, people really get upset about it. I've seen this many times. When one person starts getting upset or giving the lady a hard time at the counter, other people get upset. And people will come up to her afterwards and apologize. And she'll be like, no, I know, people get stressed out and things like that. But there's something very interesting. What he's saying is, this is a journey. وَالتَّرَافُقْ فِي الطَّرِيقِ بَيْنَ الْمُسَافِرِينَ إِلَى الْأَمْصَارِ سَبَبَ التَّوَادُ وَالتَّحَابُ. This kindness that you show to fellow travelers, this is what engenders love. that just being kind to fellow travelers. Because we're all on this journey together. Everyone, we're all going to die. Everybody, we're all going to die. We don't know when. We have a general idea. If you're 20, you might live to be 70, 80, even maybe 90. These days, maybe even 100. But it's going to max out. 120 maybe. And most people, you get to a certain age and you're kind of looking forward to the thing coming to a close. My mother told me my mother's 94 this year, and she was at a, and she's been sick for the last 5 years, but alhamdulillah, she's been doing well. But she was at a grocery store, and there was another older lady there. And they were looking at all these horrible magazines they have, at the counter as you're checking out. There's all these magazines. And the lady looked at the magazine, and then she looked at my mom, and she just said, "Aren't you glad we're on our way out?" Because it's just getting so weird. I mean, my mother grew up in a very different world. When she was born, there was an Ottoman caliph. People forget that. There's people alive today when there was an Ottoman caliph. But it was a very different world. People generally had courtesy. There wasn't all this anger. Generally, people were actually quite, even when I was younger, much younger, there was a lot more just basic courtesy. People are much ruder today. It's nice to be in a place like Turkey where you still see a lot of courtesy. It's really nice. Right? You agree? It's different, isn't it, from where you grew up? Yeah. Because we have, Sarah was in America and she's been here, and that's what she told me. It's really nice. It's nice to see normal people that don't have purple hair and tattoos all over their bones, out of their noses, and taking soap suds or whatever they call them, eating other people's noses and things like that. Right? I mean, the demons have just come out in full force. So he's saying, we should just take care of each other on this journey. وَالْعَادِلُونَ إِلَى طَرَبِ الرِّيَاسَةِ بِالْعُلُمِ خَارِجُونَ عَنْ مُوجِبِ قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. If you're seeking positions of power and influence and all these things, where are you from? إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً. The believers are brothers, fraternity, brothers and sisters. إِخْوَة is brothers and sisters. الْأَخِلَّاءُ يَوْمَئِذٍ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌّ إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ. All these intimate friends in this world, on that day, they're enemies of one another, except the people of taqwa. So if they're friends in the next world, they certainly should be friends in this world. So when you have all this animosity, it's sickness in your heart for other Muslims. الوظيفة الثانية, the second, أن يقتدي بصاحب الشرع صلوات الله وسلامه. So the first one is that he should have compassion. If he's not compassionate, he shouldn't be teaching. The Prophet said, beware of the tyrannical scholars. Beware of scholars. Imam Shafi'i has some lines that are very famous about being patient with a harsh teacher. And teachers tend to be, there are Jalali teachers and Jamali teachers. Some of the ulama say the Jalali teacher actually does you a favor because it's harder to have bad adab with them. So it just depends. Some teachers are a little tough, and we have many examples of great teachers in the history of Islam that were very harsh. And then, in the West, I remember, I played high school football, and I thought my coach hated me. He was just so hard on me. I literally thought he hated me. And I saw him, like a year after I got out of high school. I saw him, and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" And Mr. Jackson, and we went and sat down. We actually had a conversation, and I asked him. I said, "What'd you have against me?" He says the opposite. You were actually my favorite person on the team. I was like, "Thanks." So he was actually like, it was out of love that he was being so hard on me. But I didn't know it at the time. So sometimes it's like a parent. You think they're being hard on you, but very often it's because they love you. And some parents, they have different philosophies. Some believe that the best thing they can do is let you know how harsh the world is. That to cuddle you and comfort you too much is actually doing you a great disservice, because when you get outside of the house and realize how brutal the world actually is, You haven't been prepared for it, and then you're too sensitive. And that's why traditionally women were protected from the world, because their sensitivity is important for humanization of people. That if the women go out into the world and become desensitized, then where is the rahmah in the world? That's what's happened to all these modern women working and becoming like men. Even the tone of their voice has gone down a couple octaves. You know, in America, like here, you still hear these really high-pitched female voices. Just watch the women on CNN or any of these things. They've all like dropped 2 octaves, right? So even they lose that quality. You know, and politicians, it's very difficult for female politicians because when they give their speeches, they have to be very careful about getting into that shrill, a high-pitched. They actually consciously are aware of that, because it's inappropriate for a woman traditionally to do that. Like men can do that in speeches and things like that, but when a woman does that, it has a different effect. And this again gets back to polarity and this complete lack of acceptance that there are serious biological differences between these 2 aspects of the same species. That men and women are different, right? Martians and Venetians, whatever you want to call it, you know, there's different ways of looking at it, but, you know, brain sex is worth reading. There are several books that have been done on this, just about these differences between estrogen, between Pitocin, between testosterone, the effects that these have on us. You give women testosterone and they start behaving like men. They even grow hair on their chest, right? You give men estrogen, they start behaving like women, right? And one of the things about modern men becoming more and more effeminate, you know, I mean, there's a lot of estrogen mimickers out there. We don't know what's going on. There's so many plastics in the environment, and you know, things are happening. Men are developing breasts now and things like this. I mean, it's very common now. Even they found that in the natural world, birds are getting fatter, and animals are actually getting fatter in the natural world. They're seeing this. So we don't know what these plastics that are estrogen mimickers are being put in, because women are meant to have more fat than men on their bodies. So there's a lot of things happening that we don't fully understand that are going on. But anyway, I don't know how I got onto that.